Yo, what's up, y'all? It's MMA Analyst here to do my preview or my predictions video, whatever you want to call it, for UFC 112 Invincible, taking place in Abu Dhabi, outdoor event, UFC's first time. Keep your fingers crossed, y'all. If it rains, freaking nature, if it rains, they in trouble. If it's windy, they got the sandstorms, they're in trouble. So, cross your fingers. Last thing we need is a UFC 33 repeat. You know what I mean? Do your homework, y'all. If you're not sure what that is, we don't want it. That's all you know. Let's get right down to it. Main event: Anderson Silva versus Damian Maia. It was supposed to be Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort, but Vitor Belfort had to pull out. Had to get some, some surgery, whatever it was. He couldn't fight. They got the next best thing. Actually, Chael Sonnen, was probably at that point the next best thing, but he had been through a war and had the athletic, the commission, they put him on suspension, so he wouldn't have had enough time to train. And so now we got the next best thing. Actually, the next best thing would have been for him to just fight at 205 and pick some guy out of there. So we got the next best thing, which is still all right, which is Damian Maia. Let's talk about Anderson Silva. Pound for pound, I got him at number 1. He's whooping dudes at 205, killing people at 185. He's the middleweight UFC champion. He's like, I think this is it'll be his 10th win in a row, maybe, in the UFC. Just killing it. Let's see. His last win was just the absolute Muhammad Ali beat down, mixed with Roy Jones Jr., mixed with Floyd Mayweather, mixed with Bruce Lee, mixed with Chuck Norris, beat down over Forrest Griffin, where he just did his thing. Head movement, body movement, just getting out of the way, landing shots was just, wow. An absolute decimation to just a destruction of Forrest Griffin. Forrest Griffin went into hiding for a few weeks after that. He's been cited since. But anyways, crazy fight. That's when I decided, for me, Anderson Silva's number 1 pound for pound. Number 2 is Fedor. Anyways, before that, Talis Latis, a lot of people weren't happy with that, where basically he, punched Latis in the leg. I mean, look, we can get right down to all the foolishness that he's done, good and bad. I consider it to be good and better. The reality is, Anderson Silva can do what very few mixed martial artists can do, and that's toy with their opponents. And even if other fighters could do it, they're not comfortable enough to do it. This guy actually does it. And when he isn't toying with his opponents, he's killing them. So, consider yourself lucky if you get toyed with, because you don't just get completely Rich Franklin, which was no toying, just rearranging of the face. Used to be back in the day shoot box, now with Black House, training with Nogueira. 25 wins, 4 losses. One of his losses is the disqualification to Yushin Okami. He's got the crazy, everybody knows, the flying scissor heel hook against Ryo Chonin. And then back in the day when he just didn't look like himself, Takasi beat him triangle style and just dominated him the whole fight on the ground. That's all the way back in 2003. And then he lost his very first fight against Luis Azeredo back in the year 2000. But, yeah. It's just, he's a monster. Really, that's all you can say about it. And in this situation, he will be fighting Damian Maia. Damian Maia, also a monster of his own type, you know what I mean? Jiu-jitsu monster. It's a different type of monster, but it's still a monster. One loss, and that one loss is by, I think it's a straight to Nate Marquardt. He walked up, Nate Marquardt walked up, and was like, bam, sit down, son. I'm getting the title shot next, but it didn't happen because he lost to Chael Sonnen. But, yeah, basically, before that, Chael Sonnen, destroyed him in under 3 minutes. Just went out, triangle choke, submission of the night. Before that, Nate Marquardt, rear naked choke. Before that, Jason McDonald, submission of the night. Before that, Ed Herman, submission of the night. Before that, Ryan Jensen, submission of the night. Yeah. So, and he's good. 12 wins, 1 loss. His 1 loss coming to a top 5 middleweight. After that, Dan Miller kind of went out there and did a game plan he better not do in this fight. But unfortunately, I don't think it'll matter, which was kind of stand and whatnot, go for takedowns every now and then. But in this fight against Anderson Silva, he better figure a way to get this fight to the ground. And even when he does get it to the ground, he better, do what he needs to do to keep it on the ground, to control, and to get out of this fight as quick as possible. If he can get a takedown, and it's not like he's a takedown type guy, he's more like a pull guard and sweep you type guy, or lock up something and drop down into the submission right away. So it's not like his wrestling is like something that's just going to walk over and take down Anderson Silva. Really, it's going to be a difficult situation for Demian Maia. He's the big underdog, and for a reason. He's going to have to go through like treacherous grounds just to get close enough. He's got to pass the hands, and he's got to pass the elbows and the knees, and he's just going to, and Anderson has great movement. Y'all, it's going to be a difficult day for Demian Maia. I'm picking Anderson Silva by 3rd round or 2nd round. TKO no. That's right, TKO no. Next up, we've got BJ Penn versus Frankie Edgar, another beast. A lot of guys, they think about BJ Penn and they think about outside of 155. Outside of 155, BJ Penn has all but one of his losses. He lost to George St. Pierre twice. He lost to Lyoto Machida when he was like 190 pounds, and Lyoto Machida was like 215. And then he lost to Matt Hughes. Other than that, he has 1 loss. His last time he lost at 155 was in the year 2002 against Jens Pulver in his 4th fight. And since then, he's just been beating people. Matt Serra, Matt Hughes, Takanori Gomi, Dwayne Bang Ludwig, Rodrigo Gracie, Renzo Gracie, Jens Pulver again, Sean Shirk, Joe Stevenson. That's when he really turned it up. That Sean Shirk fight, he said, Sean Shirk, you ghost. Joe Stevenson, back up. Kenny Florin, you got to move. Diego Sanchez, anything you can do, I can do better. That's what he's been doing. You know what I mean? Diego Sanchez was trying that head kick all fight, and he was just never landing it. BJ Penn's thrown 1 kick in like his last 5 fights and ended the fight. Just put a big-ass gash on dude's face. Kenny Florian was going for takedowns all fight. What did he do? He said, you know what, let me show you what a takedown is supposed to look like. Dumped him on his ass. And then got that rear naked choke. It's just nasty. His boxing is the best at 155. And it's probably, not including these boxers that are coming over to MMA, it's probably the best boxing in MMA, to be honest. His takedown defense is crazy. His jiu-jitsu is crazy. And overall, at 155, BJ Penn is the best in the game. And he always has been. And it's going to be a while before there's somebody else that can really even step in that light, in that area. Frankie Edgar is gonna try. He's got wrestling. He's got speed, and he's got okay boxing. He's also coming off a couple good wins. He got a win over Matt Veach. He got a win over Sean Shirk, which was basically Sean Shirk was trying to box and could not box with Frank Edgar. He's got a win over Hermes Franca. All of these, except for the Matt Veach, are by decision. He's got a decision loss, and his only loss was to Gray Maynard. And a lot of people thought Gray Maynard should have got the title shot, but Gray Maynard went out there and even in a win, took himself out of the title shot contention with his terrible sloppy ass performance over Nate Diaz. So The situation now is we got Frank Edgar. He's going to come out here. He's going to try and stand up. He's going to realize that's not a good idea. He's got a lot of, hooks and overhands and stuff like that. And BJ Penn has that straight in that jab. And he's got the good head movement. And he's not going to be jumping all across. When people throw these big, crazy hooks, he's just going to slip a little bit, pop you. Slip a little bit, pop you. And then eventually Frank Edgar is going to say, you know what? I don't really like what's happening on the feet. Let me try and get this fight to the ground. And then that's not going to go well either because he's not going to get the takedown. He's going to get tired. And then eventually, right around, I would say, round 3, round 4, BJ Penn's going to turn it up. And that's it. I'm picking BJ Penn to win 4th round TKO. Next, Matt Hughes versus Renzo Gracie. This is a fight that, it is what it is. Matt Hughes, legend at welterweight. I don't know if he is a UFC Hall of Famer, but he will be. I don't really know how much that really matters, but, they're going to put that tack on him sooner or later. But the reality is he's probably got 1 or 2 fights left. Maybe 1 fight left. And I don't even know who against because they're not going to put him against these young beasts anymore. You know what I mean? Thiago Alves, that's never going to go good. It already happened. It's not going to go well. Anthony Rumble Johnson, something like that. No. GSP, he'll never get another title shot. John Fitch, good Lord, they ain't going to do that. So he's basically here to do his welterweight version of kind of what's happening with Chuck at light heavyweight, which is we're going to put you in favorable matches until you decide to retire. And this is a favorable match in which they're bringing over Renzo Gracie, who is, great jiu-jitsu, but he's 43. It's not old school, Gracie days anymore in MMA. Maybe for Hodger Gracie. But, it's not the Gracie era. That day is gone. The I'm going to come out here and beat you with my jiu-jitsu and my last name is Gracie is not really happening anymore. So they've got him, fighting Matt Serra, and, he's fighting Renzo Gracie now. And after this fight, maybe they'll bring Trigg back and see if he can rear naked choke Trigg again. So I don't really know what's going to happen with Matt Hughes past this fight, but let's talk about this fight. Matt Hughes right now, 43 wins, 7 losses. Prior to his Matt Serra victory, which many thought he lost, he had a TKO loss to Thiago Alves, an armbar loss to George St. Pierre, and then he has a win over Chris Lytle, and then another loss to GSP. So he's 2-3 in his last 5, and that brings us all the way back to 2006 for those who don't know. So he's been pretty inactive, and I don't really know what to say about the fight, about Hughes at this point. He used to be the man. He's going to come out here and he's going to do his thing. His stand-up has never really improved all that much. He's been able to just be a strong wrestler, get his wins, get his submissions, and be a champ for a while. But those days are pretty much gone. Renzo Gracie, on the other hand, 13 wins, 6 losses. He's actually coming off 3 wins, but his last fight was in 2007. If you see what I'm saying here, it's been about 3 years since he's fought MMA. He fought Frank Shamrock. He won that by disqualification. He beat Carlos Newton. Pat Miletich, submission guillotine. That was all, IFL, Elite XC. Prior to that, we're already in 2005. BJ Penn, he lost there, K1. He lost to Carlos Newton, lost to Shango Oyama. Prior to that, we're looking at, well, those are Pride, but we're still talking Pride. Dan Henderson, KO Punch lost. Kazushi Sakuraba lost. And then we're back to 2000 already with rings. So very infrequent, inactive fighting in MMA. In those things, like he was about 1-6 prior to his Pat Miletich, Carlos Newton, Frank Shamrock wins. So this is definitely a situation of name versus name. And in this situation here, I'm going to have to go with the wrestler who's going to be able to get the takedowns, probably stay on top, pass the guard, get that TKO, at least get the decision, but I don't really see it going any other way. I don't think Renzo's going to catch him with anything. I'm rooting for Renzo. I would like to see him get the win. Supposedly he's been signed. It's not a one and done deal type of thing, but anytime you lose in the UFC, it can be one and done. So we'll see. Next, we got Terry Edom versus Rafael dos Anjos. Terry Edom, he's coming off Shannon Gergety submission, Justin Bolsholt submission. He had a dart stroke over him. Brian Cobb, 14 wins, 2 losses. Those 2 losses were to Rich Clemente and Gleason Tebow in his second and third UFC appearances. Basically, he's a ground guy. You know, he's got 11 wins by submission. He's got 2 wins by knockout, TKO, whatever you want to call it. He's English dude, British fighter. And for the most part, I mean, he spends his time, you know, not in the UFC, not in the United States. He's fought in London, you know, Liverpool, Manchester, London. I'm talking, you know, Birmingham. These are UFCs. Then they sent him over to Germany, and now Manchester, and now, you know, Abu Dhabi. So if the UFC is fighting not in the United States, there's a high possibility that Terry Edom's going to be on the card. He's taking on Rafael dos Anjos. Rafael dos Anjos, Brazilian, very good jiu-jitsu. He's coming off a win over Kyle Bradley and another win over Rob Emerson. Prior to that, he had his 2 welcome to the UFC fights. Jeremy Stevens, uppercut from hell, and Tyson Griffin, fighter from hell. So those are 2 difficult fights for him. Coming off 2 wins. Right now, 13 wins, 4 losses. It's going to be a jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu matchup here. I think Dos Anjos will be going for the takedowns more than Etom will. I don't think he's going to get caught. Pretty much, I'm just going to go with Rafael dos Anjos winning by decision. Probably like a split decision. It's a tough one to pick because it's just going to be jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu, but I'm going to go with dos Anjos. Kendall Grove versus Mark Munoz. Kendall Grove coming off his Jake Rosholt submission triangle choke. Before that, Ricardo Almeida, big dog. You know, he lost to him. Before that, wins over Jason Day and Evan Tanner, RIP. Prior to that, Jorge Rivera, Patrick Cote, TKO losses. Right now, 11 wins, 6 losses, 1 no contest. He's definitely going to want to try and keep this on the feet. Try and, you know, use his reach, his length, maybe his elbows. You know, try and use his BJ Penn aura. Maybe he can soak some of that up from BJ Penn, and he's gonna want to try and keep himself off his back the whole fight, and that's what Mark Munoz is gonna try and do. The Filipino wrecking machine. He's got 1 loss. That loss was to Matt Hamill in his UFC debut. It did not look good in that fight, but since then has looked a lot better. Also hasn't really fought anybody as tough as Matt Hamill since then, but still look better. Nick Catone, Ryan Jensen, both wins over them cats. He also moved to middleweight. The fight with Matt Hamill was at 205, so he's smaller competition. He's a strong guy. He's a wrestler, a good one. And his stand-up has also improved. But I don't know if he wants... Not to say that, you know, dude is like Anderson Silva on the feet. Not to say that Kendall Grove's Anderson Silva, but it would best suit him to just put Kendall Grove on his back and not get submitted, which I think he can do. And that's what I think he will do. I think he'll be able to go out there, muscle him around, get the takedowns, put him up against the cage, tire him out, and basically potentially win a 3-round decision in which he basically controls the pace. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go with Mark Munoz by decision. Now, damn, what the hell? All right, rest of the card. I'm picking Phil Davis over Gustafsson. I'm picking Paul Taylor over John Gunderson. I'm picking Oshespek over Rick Story. I don't know how I feel about this one, but I'm going to pick DeMarcus Johnson over Brad Blackburn. I'm picking Paul Kelly over Veach, and I'm picking Mustafa Al-Turk over John Madsen. UFC 112, Abu Dhabi, coming up. You can watch it Saturday at 1 in the afternoon if you want. Or you can wait until the tape delay and watch it 10 p.m. at night. After that, what happens? Strikeforce. April 17th. 3 title shots. Or 3 title fights. It's going to be nasty. But let's focus on the right now. UFC 112, y'all. MMA. It's important. Peace.